All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the RRAR interview series. Joining me today is John Wood. John, thank you so much for joining us.
My
Before we get
pleasure.
started, before we get started, I just wanted to give a little bit of an introduction about this legislative interview series. This is sort of a special legislative interview series, one that was put on our plate. Last week, and one we got set up pretty quickly. So, as many members are aware, the National Association of Realtors announced an agreement that would end litigation of claims brought on behalf of home sellers related to broker commissions. Key terms of the proposed settlement include release of liability for NAR members, compensation offers removed from the MLS, NAR maintaining that it did no wrongdoing, and a settlement payout of $418 million. We have John here to break this down for us and to give some perspective to all of our RRAR members. So, John, again, thank you for being with us. And we'll get started now. I have a question. So, what was your initial reaction to this settlement when the news came down last week?
I was surprised it came down last Friday. I'm not surprised there's a settlement. NAR has been clear all along that they would prefer to settle. I think that the jury verdict made it very clear that as much as we all believed and NAR believed that we had a clear case, um, the evidence presented to the jury went otherwise. So, that it's no surprise, and I'm actually happy they found a way to settle this, and we don't have to go through years of you know appeals and more, hopefully reducing the number of lawsuits we have to go through.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things I mentioned, the removing of the compensation offers from the MLS. How do you see that impacting how realtors do their job and specifically our members?
Well, I think we will adjust and we'll overcome. If you really look back over the years in our business, we've overcome a variety of changes. I mean, from when we went to the internet, I mean, that was some of us are old enough to remember that, and how that was going to, ruin our whole world, and it didn't. The Zestimate created challenges, the iBuyers created challenges, certainly the pandemic created challenges, and we worked our way through all those. This one is probably a lot easier to work through than several of those. But what all of those have done is they created an opportunity for a conversation with consumers. And we've just got to do better at understanding what our words are and what our answer is to people's questions, and we will do better. We need to remember commercial real estate agents have not had a display of compensation in their system for years. It's yes, maybe in our MLS system they did, but in there are other systems that they mainly advertise in. There is no offer there. I am concerned that this agreement of removing the display from the MLS is reducing the transparency. And to be honest, I thought a lot of the lawsuits were all about the lack of transparency. And we can talk about that. I've got some comments at the end. I'll talk about that some more.
Okay. So I think, obviously your opinion matters. Your respected big time within the association, former president, still involved in a lot that what goes on at RRAR. What advice do you have for the realtor members of RRAR going forward and dealing with this news?
All of us have got to learn how to better articulate our value to the buyers and sellers that we're working with. We've also got to work on our elevator speech. We've got to know how to answer questions when consumers ask about the lawsuit and ask about the settlement. There's been a great deal of media coverage, and as we know, a lot of that media coverage has truly been out of line. They have made assumptions that were not included in the case, and I think a couple of things we need to remember that there's nowhere in this settlement that says commissions are going to be changed. There's nowhere in the settlement that says commissions cannot be paid between a seller and a buyer or buyer's agent. All it says is they cannot be entered for display in the multiple listing system. Will there be another solution to that? I'm sure there will be. There's lots of ideas going around. Personally, I know we as the TMLS board are trying to understand, can we participate in that or not? But how do we participate, or do we, is the question that the lawyers have to answer back to us. And if we don't do it, who is going to do it, and how is it done? Mandatory buyer agency. We've been doing this for 30 years. Almost everybody in our association came into the business with this already as a criteria. We have to remember there are 32 states that do not have mandatory buyer agency. So this settlement's going to hit those agents in those states a whole lot harder than it's going to do us. Our biggest challenge is how are we going to figure out what's being offered in compensation before we show a property, so we can educate our buyer in what that compensation is. Not, gosh, we got a whole set of new forms. I will say that forms will be revised. In a lot of cases, they've just got to have some words tweaked. A lot of our forms already take care of a lot of this, but instead of saying as offered in MLS, that's going to have to be as offered or something to that effect. And you'll see that coming out by sometime this summer.
So you sort of, I think, hit on this a little bit, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to expand on it. What do you think is the biggest misconception regarding this issue? What do you think is something that needs to be made blatantly clear to our members?
Well, I've been really surprised at the claim that the home prices will fall. I've also been, surprised at the attack on that commissions will fall. There's nothing again in the settlement that addresses either one of those. Let's first talk about home prices. Home prices are by supply and demand. Look back in the last 3 or 4 years, we've never experienced 20 and 30% annual appreciation. And did that have anything to do with anybody's fees? No, it was market driven. Those of us who went through the recession back in 8, 9, 10, 11, did anything change on our end that caused all those properties to go into some level of foreclosure or short sale? No, but we adjusted our way through it. And in both cases I've just presented, we had challenges sometimes in what the commissions were being paid. There was pressure on it at times, but other times there were not. And there's nothing in these lawsuits that's dictating where we go with with commission or the value of homes. We need jobs in the Triangle. Right now we have jobs coming in the Triangle, and as long as we have jobs coming and we have positive growth, our home prices will be fine.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think it's important for our membership to hear that part particularly. So those were the main questions I wanted to ask you regarding this, John, but I wanted to give you this opportunity I'll turn it over to you. And is there anything else you wanted to cover, or any last message you wanted to send to our membership?
I do. And I think just a reminder that realtors will overcome this. There's a lot bigger challenges in the world. Let interest rates jump up. That's a bigger challenge than all of this. We're hoping interest rates will start to ease down, as they have a little bit already. So you talk about market conditions. Interest rates drive this market a whole lot more than anything we're dealing with. We have to remember our friends in the mortgage industry have been dealing with a lots of disclosure of fees and this conversation for decades as well, and they continue to thrive and do well. My biggest disappointment, as I alluded to earlier, was we seem to be taking away a level of transparency. And my concern with that is when we suddenly pull the disclosure of what fee is being offered by a seller out of a public type or a private portal within the MLS's members, it opens the door for discrimination. It opens the door for consumers or agents to decide what they offer one firm versus another, or one agent versus another. And I'm very worried about that. And I really hope that there's going to be some more thought into this, and there's found a better way to do this in the long run. But the short run, in 120 days, we will be up and running with a different system, unless somewhere along the line the courts change their mind and push this out further.
Yeah, thanks for that. And the last thing I want to ask you, John, I think you touched on it a little bit, but I think it's important to sort of end these conversations on a positive note. I think it's been a lot of transition and a lot of understanding for our members in the last couple of years, for sure, and a lot of adapting. So, you mentioned it earlier. As long as people are coming into the Triangle, people looking for jobs, there's going to be houses for people, hopefully. What is the great thing about being a realtor in North Carolina as opposed to a lot of other places right now?
So one of our dear friends in this business, Tommy Fonbull, who is since retired, but he was a great developer in our area as well as involved with obviously a real estate firm for many years. Tommy has said the word many times. We in the realtor and development and building world win the lottery every day by being part of the triangle. There's so many areas of this country that do not see the growth, do not have the desire of firms to relocate their companies here, and to have such a beautiful area. I mean, yes, it's the first day of spring as we do this interview, and it's a beautiful day. Will it get chilly one day? Sure. But our life is really good here, and the quality of life is strong. And, I'm proud, and I think all of our members are proud to be able to help introduce people to our market and show them why it's so wonderful to live throughout the triangle. And we will survive and we will thrive. And, if I can help with anybody, please reach out.
I echo that. I mean, I'm originally from upstate New York, so it always seems that spring comes a lot later in upstate New York than it does here in North Carolina. So,
Absolutely.
take that for what it's worth. But John, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy, but I think it's important that our membership hears this, but also hears it from you, and you're able to give your expertise and opinion on it. So I can't thank you enough, and I know our membership will be thankful as well. So thank you for doing this.
Happy to do it. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.